Motivation in motion. Own your moment and get better today.
Well, my name is Gary Fischer.
Coach Fischer.
My name is
Just messing with you.
Coach Fischer. No, I'm Gary Fischer.
Okay.
I grew up in a little town in the panhandle of Texas called Wheeler. It's a typical Texas small town where everything revolved around the school, and football's pretty much the king out there.
Okay.
I was fortunate enough to get to play college football at East Central.
Okay.
And, had a great time there. And
what positions?
well, I went there as a quarterback.
Oh, okay.
So I played a little bit of quarterback and a little bit of wide receiver.
Okay.
And then my junior year was moved to defense and played defensive back the last couple of years.
Okay.
And so,
You were a way better athlete than me. I could never play on the defensive side of the ball.
well,
You must have had some talent. Now I heard a little bit about some punt returns. So how many punt returns did you have for a touchdown?
I think there wasn't very many for a touchdown.
Okay, they were just good returns.
Just good returns.
Okay.
The way that I got that job was when I was a freshman. We were playing in Abilene at McMurray, and I was fortunate enough to make the traveling squad. I knew I wasn't going to play, but I was there. And every punt, we didn't field it; it hit the ground. And our coaches were so upset because they emphasized that so much in practice. And then that following Monday morning, I went in and said, hey, I can catch those punts if you'll give me a chance.
Give me a shot.
And from then on, for the next 4 years, I was able to return punts.
You don't normally see a quarterback going back and returning punts. So
I just wanted to play.
You just wanted to play.
Yeah,
that's a great attitude. Now, when you got done with school and ball, how did you start your coaching career? When did you know you wanted to coach?
Well, all through high school and everything, I knew I wanted to coach. And then I got sidetracked a little bit. People were telling me, no, you need to go in business and do some things like that. So I lasted about a semester taking accounting or something like that, and then got back on track. So I pretty much knew I wanted to coach.
That's hilarious. Do you know we've got Hall of Fame coaches that have sat here right here where you're at that have been engineers, CPAs. They all lasted about a year. 6 months, you're right in line, right?
Right.
So then you decide you're going into coaching. Then what does that look like for you?
Well, again, I've been very fortunate. I had the opportunity to go to Enid, a large high school. It's the largest classification in Oklahoma, and beginning of high school, and was there 2 years, and I learned a lot, and I got to work with the great Harvey Griffin. He's a legend in Oklahoma.
Absolutely.
He was the assistant AD at Oklahoma State when they brought him back to Enid.
Yep.
He'd been at Enid before and won state titles, and he'd coached in college at UTEP, and he was ahead of his time. He was an offensive innovator. I mean, we threw the ball in Enid way. This
I've
is
heard that.
1977.
I've heard that.
Before all of this stuff started. And from there, I got to know Doc Holliday. Doc was the coach at Stillwater at that time, and Stillwater had won the state championship. And he asked me to go with him to Paulsvalley. And, my wife's from Ada and grew up in Ada, had friends in Ada, and wanted to get back closer. And so I went back to Paulsvalley with Doc.
Okay.
Learned a lot from Doc Holliday.
Wow.
He was a great offensive coach. And from there, I had the opportunity to go to Ada.
Okay.
And that's when Ada was in their prime.
Oh, yeah.
If you're from Oklahoma, you know about Ada Cougar football.
Oh.
We won state championship at Ada and played
championships.
Played deep into the playoffs.
Yeah.
And but always in the back of my mind, I knew I wanted to go back to Texas. And coach in Texas high school, and the coach that coached me in high school, after several stops, he became the head coach at Denton.
Okay.
It's in the largest classification in Texas.
Oh, yeah.
And so I had the opportunity to go back and coach with, the guy that coached me in high school, which is very special. And
you were a coordinator for him?
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I was the offensive coordinator.
Okay.
So that was, as far as a mentor and the things you learn and how to coach kids and all that, a lot of that came from Coach Bateman at Denton.
Let's talk a little bit about that. So I'm going to ask you, are you an aggressive play caller? Are you?
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
you're a
you gotta
quarterback.
know, but
You're a quarterback that wants to go back and return punts. I want to
Right.
kind of figure out what this play calling looks like.
You got to know who you're working for. Okay.
Oh,
Right now,
okay.
When you're with Coach Bateman, there's not a more conservative person in the
Okay.
coaching than he was. So,
Okay.
that was kind of tempered a little bit.
Okay.
With him. But I would say, no, I was probably more on the conservative
The conservative side.
side. There's different ways to win football games,
You know, it's interesting. We've had so many great men and women that we get the opportunity to talk with, and I think it's interesting. So talk a little bit about just your personality. Is your personality that way too, just in life?
Yeah, I think so. There's times to be aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
There's times to be a conservative. But you always want to give your team or whatever the situation is the best chance to be successful.
Yeah, you guys were good at Denton.
We were real good.
Yeah.
I mean,
And then
for
you
several
went
years.
offensive. Did you go straight from being an offensive coordinator to replacing him as head coach?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many years that you were there? Because you did that. Then
I was
you were,
there about 20 years.
total. Okay.
Yeah, total.
Okay. And head coach for 10 or 12 of that?
11.
11. Okay. All right. That's awesome. Is there a story at any of those stops of just a certain team that you just remember that was special? And it might not even be a team that won the championship.
Yeah.
And I don't want to discount all of them. That's tough.
That's a hard question.
I know.
'cause There's going to be a lot of special
Okay.
times or moments.
Give me one good story about a season that maybe that the world needs to hear. Because what I found interesting is it's never about the typical win and loss. It's always a story of something overcoming, or maybe you guys have a star player get hurt and the way the team rallies. I don't know.
That's still hard to single down into one game or one season. But there was times at Ada, where we won games we weren't supposed to win just because of the tradition.
Yeah.
And them believing. And there was times at Denton, were the same way. But a very special season, of course, is when your boys are playing for you.
Ooh. Okay.
And so in '98. We were picked near the bottom of the district. That's when my oldest son was a senior and my youngest son was a sophomore. But, early on we got on a roll and was able to win, 10 games, I think, and rolled into the playoffs and had a very, very good year when no one expected it. And maybe it made it a little more special because those two.
Because your boys were on
the team,
yeah.
too. So that's memorable. But we could talk for hours on games that
I know, and that's okay. They can edit it down to shorten it. I could listen to football stories forever.
Well, me too.
Let's talk a little bit about your faith, okay? And just where did that journey start? And then how did it kind of parallel in your coaching career, and what does that look like?
Okay, that's easy. I told you I grew up in Wheeler, but I didn't grow up in a home that was a Christian home.
Okay.
I wasn't encouraged to go to church or be a part of anything like that. So, the people in town, they knew that and they encouraged me. But, I'll never forget that when I was 15 years old, there was they used to have revivals.
Oh yeah.
Okay?
The tent would come, right?
Yeah, there wasn't a tent there this time, but of course my friends asked me to go, and I went, and I'll never forget. I can tell you the clothes I had on, everything, when I accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior.
Wow.
But still, even after that, I still wasn't encouraged at home. But it came from other places, from my coaches, from my friends. The closest thing I guess I had to being consistent in church was that every Friday, during the season, we would meet at Nora's Cafe, the players, before school. And, our coaches would lead us in devotional and stuff like that. And then in Wheeler, after every home game at the First Baptist Church, they'd have chili dogs or something like that. So, that's where, it all began.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when you go to college, you meet people and special people. And, my wife was one that got me to going to church again. Then I had a roommate one time that got involved in FCA.
He's got a little faith, I hear.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
And so, that's where it kind of began.
Okay.
And hopefully all of that background kind of, where you coached by example.
Yeah.
And not so much just, hopefully my players know what my
Right.
background is.
I want to just touch on this a little bit. So now, what do you think your coaching legacy's been and the men that have been on your staff? What would they say about you?
Wow. I was thinking on the way up here, I said, have I had coaches that became head coaches? But I've never really counted them, and I counted 5 or 6 as I was driving up here. But, hopefully the same thing. And we carried that devotional thing every Friday morning. We would have it with our players before school. And not only was that just, in my mind, for our players, but it was also for our assistant coaches.
Yeah.
And so they know that, that hopefully that program, our program, was based on that stuff.
It's funny. It's not funny. We've talked about this on this couch. Is I don't believe in coincidences, and then you discount maybe 5 or 6 head coaches and your impact with them. So why not? Why does that? Why do you kind of shy away from the fact that there are 5 men that are coaching football that you had a positive influence on?
I didn't mean to discount it. I just hadn't really thought about it. And how many there were.
Yeah. Think about it now. They've had men, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the reasons when John asked me to just participate in this, I thought of just his dad's tree, right?
Right.
And then I kind of had this stupid idea, could we chart a coach's tree? And then I realized you can't.
No.
You can't.
No.
You couldn't drive up here and remember, that guy was on our staff for 2 years. Now he's a head coach in California, and he's had 7 guys leave his staff, right? And go be head coaches. And so I think what I would love to do is have men and women leave this couch and the discussions that we have. I want them to think about the legacy that they've left. So I want you to own that when you leave, okay?
Okay.
Okay, will you do that for me?
Sure.
Okay, all right. So I think it's interesting the humility that has set here and all the success that you've had. But everybody's had that same heart of, well, I don't know how big it's been, and I don't know how to measure it. So we're going to try to measure it for you, okay? So if you can't tell me a certain season, and you won't kind of do that, I get it. I want you to talk about maybe there was something you did early in your career that you wish you'd have done different. Maybe a young coach needs to hear something that you just learned along the way.
Man, that's something I'd have to think about.
Okay.
There's probably a whole bunch of things.
Okay. You can think about that, and I'll make fun of John for a minute.
Well, I can think about it. I kind of wish, and I've said this to coaches that we've had on our staff, and maybe even to John, and I know to my 2 boys that were coaches that, I didn't coach in the junior high or middle school coming out. And so I think maybe I should have had, if I could, share something to young coaches or whatever, it would be that's not a bad thing to start in a middle school or junior high. In fact, I think it's a better thing. But also the coaches that are not on those middle school or junior high staffs, that they are just as important as you are.
Yeah.
And maybe even more so.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe if I could go back, I'd have a little bit more compassion for middle school coaches, or maybe coach there myself.
It's interesting. So there are multiple Hall of Famers that have sat there who have said they wished everyone started in junior high.
Sure.
And I mean, you're bringing up the same thing. The other thing that I think you find interesting is I want to do that better in my coaching career, is value those men and women that are dedicating that energy. There's a lot of challenges that come to that junior high program.
Right.
And I probably need to do a better job of encouraging them and helping them stay after it, because they're getting more of the parent involvement. When you get into high school, especially a big program high school, you actually get a little less parent involvement, because these are kids are driving themselves.
Yeah.
Well, until you get those special parents, but we won't talk about
I'll give
that.
you two views on. I have both of my sons coached out of college.
Okay.
My oldest son started in middle school.
Okay.
He's still in middle school.
Wow.
He's in one of the middle schools in our district in Denton that feeds Denton Guyer. Denton Guyer is a powerhouse
Right.
in Texas now. He has had multiple opportunities to move up, but he doesn't want to because he loves coaching those middle school kids
Wow.
and making their first, their first time that they experience football is positive.
That's
And
great.
So he's in his spot, and he knows
That's
that.
awesome.
And whereas the other one, the young one, was more like me. He wanted to go up as quick as he could. And, he doesn't coach now, but he's very, very successful because of what he learned in coaching and what he does now.
Wow. That's awesome. I appreciate that. I love that. So he's going to stay? I mean, is this going to be his spot forever?
Yeah, he doesn't have any. He every once in a while he'll get a little
itch.
but he knows that that's what he likes best.
Wow, that's incredible. I wish I had learned, 20 years ago to take that kind of gig. Yeah.
You asked me earlier about some advice that you could give young coaches.
Yeah.
Well, I can give you a personal one with my youngest son.
Okay.
He went to Texas A&M and worked in the football offices there and was
Okay.
very involved, in their game day stuff and all that. And he was able to get a job in Brenham. Brenham is a very, very good, very successful program in Texas.
Okay.
They've won state championships and, very well known and respected. And, man, he was so excited that he got a job in Brenham. And then about a week later, he called me back and he said, Dad, he says, I'm going to be the 7th grade B team football coach, or a 7th grade B team football coach. And I said, well, John, I tell you what, you be the best 7th grade B team football coach in the state of Texas, and someone will notice.
Yeah.
Well, his personality, the way he is, he just took that and he did it. And within 1 year, he goes from being the 7th grade B team football coach at Brenham Junior High to coaching on the varsity
staff
at Brenham High School.
Wow.
In a very, it's not where they had to go search for coaches.
Right.
It's where people wanted to be. So, that's some advice that's.
It's interesting. We always feel like it's just in life or any position, but I think coaches especially is we think we have this plan of trajectory, right? And the reality is we should just own the job that we have and do the best at it. And then God will honor the rest.
Exactly. You need to be the best where you are.
That's a really good point. I think that's a complete golden nugget. So thank you for sharing that. I want to get back to a little bit talking about, so your two boys have got into coaching. How'd that make you feel the first time they tell you, hey, Dad, I want to be.
Makes you proud.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those two were with me from the, they've been many miles on the yellow school bus, wherever we were. And then at Denton, our equipment guy he's a crusty old guy, but they were ball boys, but he wouldn't let kids be ball boys until they were in the 2nd grade.
Okay. They mess that up, right?
Yeah, you had to have a little agility and stuff. But from then on, they were on the sideline with me until they're not anymore. From the time they're 6, 7 years old until they're 17, they're right there with you in everything you do, which is special.
That's great.
Kids get to experience, or coaches with their kids.
Yeah,
that's a positive. There's some negatives.
Yeah, no. Well, I know the time that coaching takes, and I get that. But there is something that I've seen in some coaches that I want to model their family life after, and they incorporate their family to some capacity, regardless of what it is. Right. My daughter goes with me, and one of my really good colleagues, his daughter's the same age, and they don't care about football. They love being up at the football offices,
right,
and being kids, right? And so just having them around is just great, right? Because time, we know as we get older, that is the most special thing we have, right? Time with each other, and so time with our kids. So I can't imagine what it felt like for your boys to be on the sideline with you. So thank you for sharing. I want to talk about a little bit about this. So you get your faith. What made you decide to hang it up? What made?
Well, that was a tough decision.
Okay.
We were at a time in Denton where they were building new schools. My wife had the opportunity to open Denton Geyer.
Okay.
She was the first principal at Denton Geyer.
Wow.
And Denton Geyer was going to draw from Denton High, and it was going to split us, and it was just going to be a not good situation.
Yeah.
And so I just thought it was a good time for me to retire and to do some other things, to stay involved, but not be the coach at Denton
What
High
are those
School.
other things?
Well, I do stuff with first-year teachers.
Okay.
They're alternatively certified. We mentor them, supervise them, help them get through. So they're my team now.
I got you. Okay. So you're coaching the teachers.
Exactly.
I like it.
Yeah,
I like it. Okay. Any itch to ever go back? Are we going to see you as an 8th grade coach on? Are you going to coach 7th grade football with your son here before you hang it back
No.
up? There's plenty of energy left.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
Oh,
figure
yeah,
out
I
why
got the
you're.
energy.
I'm trying to figure out why you're not coaching.
Every once in a while you kind of want to, but no, you miss things, but it'd be hard.
Okay. All right. I don't know,
No,
John. Do I
I-
need to convince him to get coaching again?
He'd be a great coach, though.
No.
No, he would. I would love to see him coach.
Yeah. See, the
Just,
answer is yes. I think I hear
It'd be
there's a
fun to be an assistant coach again, not the head coach.
See, I think that's where I got an opportunity, and John knows, to be on a staff and kind of get demoted. And then I've just stayed there for 11 years, and I've loved it. I'm a position coach. I do scout team, and I love it.
Yeah.
I just love it.
Well-
And I get to spend energy that the other coaches, because of what they have to put together, they don't get to spend that.
Right.
And now I realize, and because of the season in life I'm in with my daughter, it allows me to have more energy there.
Right.
I don't have to put together a game plan.
Yeah, the most fun I ever had coaching is as an assistant.
Yeah. It's like I hit the grass and I am full energy, and then they call it up, and I'm kind of like the players. I'm like, okay, I'm kind of tired too. And then, I'm like, well, coach, what do you need me to break down tonight? No, I'm good. I've already got it installed. Okay, great. I'm out. I'll talk about this. What was your weekend routine as a coach, and did it change over time?
Yeah, it changed. Our weekend routine usually was at Denton. We would bring our players in on Saturday morning.
Okay.
Just because to number one, check on them.
Okay.
And make sure everything's okay. And we would run and lift a little bit and might watch a little bit of tape with them. But they were gone, they weren't there too long.
Yeah, a couple hours.
Yeah. And then our staff would usually stay till, maybe 1 o'clock.
Okay.
And then we would come back Sunday afternoon
Okay.
about 1 to 2, and stay till we finished.
Yeah.
Which could be 6 o'clock. It could be 10 o'clock.
Yeah. Sometimes who you're playing,
Right.
what you got, right? What you're
Exactly.
having to pull out of the tool chest to get
But
ready.
it did change some
Yeah.
over the years.
Yeah.
Practice certainly did,
That's the part that I think, I hope that more coaches will stay, is now with Huddle and all these kind of digital medias, is like we leave a game and our tape's already loaded and broken down.
Right. See,
Right.
now I didn't get to
It's
experience that.
like you talk about spoiled, because I'm in the transition. I still remember driving a VHS to another coach,
Yeah.
right? And we meet halfway between towns, and we're like, here's my 3 VHS.
Well, you're saying VHS. I remember taking the canister.
The tape, the true tape. Yeah.
Film.
Yeah, film.
Yeah,
That's right.
film.
And so now it's kind of like, man, we leave, but you know what it's given back is a little freedom on the weekend.
Yeah.
Because you click a couple buttons, and now you're like, okay, I have all their third downs.
Right.
And now the game plan is just totally different than what I
Right.
felt like when I started my coaching career, where I'm going through VHS and then breaking down all the pluses
Right.
and minuses and going through that. So that's changed. If there's anything you could say, that you'd like to kind of see this organization do to honor Faye, what would it be?
Honor Coach Odell?
Yeah.
Wow. That's something I'd have to think about.
Okay, well, we're
Caught
going to
me
sit
off-
here and wait, because every answer you've given me is
Now,
great.
you caught
So
me off guard.
I'm going to wait.
Now say that again.
Because and I know how close you are to John, but Faye Odell, what would you say that would kind of honor us just participating in this process? What comes to mind when I say Faye Odell?
Well, there's a lot of things come to mind.
Give me a couple.
Well, the first time I went home with John, and I've never even told him this, I don't think, but I remember we were in his kitchen or somewhere, and his mom come in, and his dad to her says, "Man, you are so beautiful." She, "John, do you know you have the prettiest mother
Wow.
in Oklahoma," or whatever it was. And that stuck with me from then on, and I used to say that to my boys all the time about, but that's something. And then, of course, I know about the Marines, and I know the coaching, and I know the stories, and I've heard him tell the stories when he's speaking. So what we could do to honor him, I don't know, is just try to, carry on and be the type of coach that he was, that's honorable.
What I hear in that story, though, just in the brief moment that I have just now heard it, what comes immediately to mind is he knew how to value the simple things, right? Like, I knew he could speak, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I would have never have known the value that he was putting into everyday life, right? And so I think maybe we honor the average, the ordinary, the value in the little things, the value in us just getting to meet today and sit here and just talk about coaching and connect as coaches, right?
Right.
Faye would have loved that. He'd have sat here and told stories, right?
He would.
100%, right?
Yeah. From someone from Arkansas.
Right? and he would have loved that. So I love that story because your playoff games are in big boy stadiums.
Yes. Well, we played in Texas Stadium several times, but that would have to be the number one.
Okay. What's that feel like to take a bunch of high school kids to Texas Stadium?
It's awesome.
Yeah.
You can't believe it. I mean, that was one of the goals, is to play in where the Cowboys play. And it was so special then. There wasn't that many turfed stadiums.
Okay.
Or now every high school nearly has a nice stadium, turf, all that stuff. But back then we didn't. And they would let you go down and the day before or sometime during the week you were going to play there and practice.
Okay.
If you lived in the area. And so, that was pretty special. You take your team into Texas Stadium, they get to come down the tunnel, and it's pretty, awe. So it's a good thing you get to do that, so they don't do it on game day. So, but yeah, it's pretty neat.
I can't
to
imagine
play in some of those stadiums.
I can't imagine being 17 years old and walking into Cowboy Stadium and thinking about, man, I'm about to leave a mark on my high school career right here.
But but we played in big crowds.
Yeah. Your home crowds were 30,000.
Oh no.
No. Are they now?
No.
What's Denton Guyer put down there? 15?
They
10 or 15?
Now if it's some game
rivalry game.
Yeah, or something. But in normal games,
Those are just war stories from my buddies that are coaching down in Plano and stuff and telling me war stories.
8,000, whatever.
Yeah.
But
it's a little different than our 800 that show up.
But I've been in Oklahoma. We've played in front of big crowds.
Yeah.
But it's some of that stuff's exaggerated. I'll tell you.
Everything's bigger in Texas, including the stories?
Exactly.
Okay. All right. I'll take that one.
I mean, it's special. Don't get me wrong.
Okay.
But, you asked me about earlier about the ones that influenced me.
Yeah.
I feel like I need Coach Bateman, the one I played for and the one I coached. I mean, I worked for some great coaches. I already told you, Harvey Griffin, Doc Holliday, Larry McBroom. He's a legend in Oklahoma.
Legend.
But Coach Bateman, he knew how to deal with kids. Kids were a priority. He knew how to make them feel special. We were. That's what I learned from him, and I learned that it's okay to coach old school.
Okay.
It's okay to coach toughness.
Yeah.
That's good. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Even though sometimes nowadays they talk about you can't work that hard. You can't do those things.
This is still a violent sport.
Yeah.
Football is an extremely violent sport, and they still have to be prepared for it.
But he knew we did things that were special to players. Every Friday
Okay.
on game day, we would have this ceremony as our award ceremony, where we would meet. Our athletic period was in the middle of the day. He before I go, he taught me how to be a professional.
Okay.
You know, how to dress professionally. Our athletic period was in the middle of the day, and so we would come from teaching class to off season, and then we had one more class.
Okay.
Then we came back after school. But he would not let us wear coaching for one class. You know, you put your
You're going to put your teaching gear back
put
on.
your teaching clothes back on to go teach that class.
Wow.
Because you are a professional.
That's a great
So
lesson.
he taught me how to be a professional. But he knew how we'd have this award ceremony where we gave these helmet decals.
Okay.
It's not done very much anymore.
No, it's
Kinda
not.
faded out.
Yeah, it has.
But he would say, all of our players would be in there, and he'd say, "John Odell, stand up." He'd say, Friday night, John had 14 tackles, recovered a fumble, intercepted a pass. John gets 15 horseshoes.
Wow.
And everybody,
Yeah.
you know, it was just so special. And then the funny thing to follow up with that, as teachers, you know, you have these teachers meetings and all this kind of stuff you got to go to. And we're in this in-service one day, and they bring in this high-powered lady that's talking about motivation, how to motivate in the classroom and all this kind of stuff. And she said, you know, one thing that you ought to do, she said, I've come up with this, is that you need to award students for good deeds. She said, what I do is I take these little stickers, and when they do something positive, we put it on their notebook. I go, we've been doing that for years.
Yeah. Put them on their helmet.
They did that when I played. And so he was such an influence, and that still felt today. And like I said, maybe we didn't win as many as some coaches, but he knew how to make kids feel special.
Wow. Yeah, I love what you said, to make the kids a priority.
Exactly.
I think that's a secret that the great ones get, and the young ones are trying to figure out.
Yeah.
And so maybe we bring you into that class of, like, let's teach some secret things. And I think sometimes coaches get so caught up in their career, they lose sight of the priority, which should be the young people that they're influencing.
Right. Texas they've laxed a little bit, but back then, you had 1 hour of off season. I mean, they were real strict on
Around
the
the rules.
I mean, you had 1 hour of off season, and our athletic period was fourth period.
Okay.
And our field house across the high school's over here, and field house across the street is pretty good ways. But when that bell rang to start fourth period, they had 7 minutes to be sitting in front of their locker, ready to go.
So you could see the
off-season.
jogging. You knew who was playing
There
football.
was. And I'm telling you, our off season, it was tough.
Wow.
I mean, you couldn't do that today. I've told John about it.
Yeah. You had 7 minutes to get here. We worked you out for 45 minutes. We
And
gave
then-
you 3 minutes to get back.
And then you know, they're in their lockers. Their shoes had to be in a certain place. Their t-shirts.
Yeah.
And that's you know, that's discipline maybe, or it's cosmetics maybe, but it's something that they took pride in. That our dressing room looked uniform. You know.
You know, the thing that I've noticed with certain staffs, and I'm glad you bring that up, because I've been on several staffs, and I think it's I'll give a great example. Walk into a coach's, you know, kind of the bullpen room where everybody's at. When it's disorganized, Friday night feels pretty disorganized
Yeah.
too. So I would tell you how you do the little things might be how you do the good, you know, the real things out there. So I love staffs. You know, big thing right now that's going around that I've been on the last couple is putting a group of players on detail. So they get to go police their peers about their cleats and their gear and their shoes. And that, you know, I think all those things, we probably don't emphasize them enough anymore.
Probably.
You know, a little attention to detail, those teams were better. So that's a good
Yeah.
one. Well, I can't thank you enough. I really appreciate you. I appreciate you allowing John to talk you into sitting down with me. How about that?
Okay.
Fair
And
enough.
I got a little poem,
Yeah.
kind of sums some stuff up,
Let's do it.
especially about today. I mean, the way things are today. And the story behind it was when I first became a head coach at Denton High.
Okay.
I was at a clinic, and there was an older coach. He was older then, and that was in 1994. And I don't know what he talked about that day, but his name was Ray Overton. He was the coach at Irvin MacArthur. And he ended his talk with a poem, and it goes something like, I hope I don't screw it up, but he goes, "Perhaps I'm over-featured in the headline stirring plea. Perhaps I'm more important than a mere game ought to be. But with the sins they speak of, and the list is quite a span, I'm the soul of school spirit and the maker of the man."
That's good. I love it. I love it. I appreciate it so much. Thank you for
And
sharing that.
I didn't ever meet him personally, but I wrote him a letter, and he sent me stuff, and he would send me stuff. I never met him personally, but his name was Ray. He was a legend,
Wow.
and so I thought that's pretty.
Great. That's great stuff.